You're listening to the Support Ed Learning Podcast, where we challenge the status quo of education and reimagine what learning should be. I'm Dr. Joe Sebestyen, and in every episode we dive into critical thinking, Bloom's taxonomy, educational innovation, and how AI is shaping the future of learning. Whether you're a teacher, parent, policymaker, or lifelong learner, you're in the right place to rethink, reshape, and revive education. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Supported Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Sebestyen, here with another great guest, Mrs. Amanda Dake, founder of Funnel Kitchen and the Amanda Dake Show. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
Excited to be here. Good. Really good.
Awesome. Well, let me tee up this interview a little bit. You started your career as a public school teacher and transitioned into the wonderful world of entrepreneurship, the online business world, after seeing the potential of marketing systems to create more freedom. As a single mom raising two sons, she built a successful business by solving her own problems, first by developing marketing systems that worked on her terms, and then teaching others to do the same. Her Funnel Kitchen brand reflects her passion for simplifying complex business models and turning them into something practical, repeatable, and nourishing, like a good meal, as you said. Is that a good enough intro there in terms of
that's amazing.
Well, again, it's Amanda Dake. I appreciate you coming on. I'm really excited to talk to you, get to kind of know you a little bit, because we were connected from a mutual friend. And I kind of resonate with the journey because I'm still on it as well as an educator, still in the field, but also have an online business, I guess. First, like, what led you to get into education to start off with?
Well, both my parents are teachers, or were.
Okay.
They're retired now. It was just back in the time that I was going through school and then decided to go, to college and major in education. That was kind of a really common path that people were taking. So this was back in the early 90s, the 1900s.
Yeah.
Some people can imagine that. But it was a pretty common path. And, I knew that I wanted to have a big impact on the world. And I loved helping others. And it was just a natural direction to take. Funny thing is, though, as I went through college, I changed my major a few times. College kids tend to do that. My son is a senior in college right now, and he's even thinking about changing some things. But I had 6 weeks left of my student teaching, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. And I quit. I don't know if I've ever shared this story publicly.
Okay.
I quit 6 weeks with 6 weeks left of student teaching. That's it. That's all I had to do. And then I was graduated. And I don't know if it was just like, gosh, I'm about to be a grown-up thrown out into the world of, adult stuff, or I don't know what it was, but I took the rest of that 6 weeks and the rest of the summer, and I went back and did it again, and then ended up graduating in December instead of May. And from there, I went on and taught for 12 years. You started out in high school and then finished in private school for 1 year. 3 years. Sorry. Finished in private school for 3 years and teaching 7th grade. So I taught everything from junior college to 7th grade. And I loved 7th graders, if you can believe that. Not many people do.
I actually started as an 8th grade social studies teacher and then went up to high school, and before I made the transition to administration. But middle school is a beast into its own. Absolutely. You either love it or you don't, basically.
I liked it because they were still afraid of me. To a point. I'm only 5'1". Okay. So high school, all these kids are a lot larger than me. They were a little bit, I was still like the boss in there, but they were also, so they were young enough to kind of be afraid and respect still, but they were old enough to get my humor. So it was a lot. We had a lot of fun. I taught science. And so, it was a really active environment, and I had a lot of fun with those kids.
So I guess, where was it where you go from the safe, secure world as an educator into the wild, risk-taking world of an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so 2011 is when it happened. And I had been teaching for 12 years. And one day in February, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was at a point in my life, like I knew something happened and I just knew there was more that I was meant to do. And while I did love the kids, it was very monotonous for me
Hmm.
being in the classroom, doing the same thing, 5 or 6 times in a
Right.
row. It was not for my personality at all. So I got to a point where I was literally crying at my desk in the mornings. I did not belong there anymore. So in February, with no plan, I had no idea what I was going to do. I went into my administrator and said I was not going to renew my contract. So I finished out that school year, but I gave him the warning that I was going to be done. Yeah, with no idea what was next.
Right. No plan. Like, just
No
done.
plan. I had
Wow.
no plan. I also have a master's degree, and it's in higher ed administration. So I thought I did that because a lot of people in education, they'll get their master's in like K-12 administration, and you're kind of pigeonholed in
Hmm.
that public school type, K through 12 thing.
Mhm.
I wanted more options at the time when I got my master's, which was early on. It was 2003 when I got that. So I thought, I'll try higher ed administration so that way I can move up and go, work at the university level or something like that. If I wanted to be like a dean, or I was always loved the thought of being an advisor for
Right.
kids. So that's what my master's was in, but I'm also a certified K through 12 administrator for public school. But I just never chose to go that route. And so in 2011, instead of like pursuing a higher position, curriculum director or something like that, I decided to just totally throw a wrench in the whole thing and do something else. So I didn't know what that was going to be. Once I declared that I was going to move on and do something else, then some doors started opening that I had not seen before. So K-12 was a pioneer in online education, and they needed curriculum developers. And so somehow, like, I got into that world of helping write curriculum for online education. And that was my first step out of the classroom, but I was still kind of in the education space. And I was more independent. I could work from home or anywhere. And I had, my two sons were young at the time, and I had just more flexibility to be with them, and I really enjoyed that. So it was kind of a stepping stone of stayed kind of familiar, and gave me a little more freedom and less monotony, and allowed me to explore what else I was going to do uh, beyond that. And so that's kind of how it began.
So you've obviously, after education, you've worked in some tech and some business, but like, what what is like the through line that connects it all that you've seen as you obviously entered being an entrepreneur and
Well, for
different than
me,
education?
being an educator means to me that I'm able to take really complex ideas and simplify them, right? So others can understand them. And so being able to do that for others, I was also able to do that for myself. So I taught myself the basics of digital marketing, of social media marketing, different things like that, in a way that I was able to go communicate to prospects and get clients to be able to then manage their social media or help with their lead generation, which was all brand new back in
Right.
2012, right? So
Right.
it wasn't like it is now. And then from there, because I started learning these newer tech platforms, the first one being ClickFunnels,
Hmm.
which was started in 2014, I created an online course. that taught other people how to basically use that platform. And from there, it really just kept growing as I would meet more people and determine what their needs were. And, I'd go to conferences, I'd do all kinds of different things. And really, the online education space is where I landed. So being able to help people, now it's getting them to craft their own message, their own course, their own training, and help them structure it in a
Right.
way that other people will be able to consume it and get a result.
So how did it like be going into business owning? I mean, obviously involved with funnels. With I don't know how many people are watching know what funnels are, but if you're in
Yeah.
the business world, you definitely do. But like, was that like I'm going to be an entrepreneur, leaving the classroom, or was it exploring other things? And then, like, how did business being an
It
entrepreneur?
really just happened. So I just kept saying yes to different opportunities. Now, you
Okay,
might hear that's a little bit different than like the one thing, right? And you got to say no to all the other things.
right,
When I didn't know what I wanted to do and I wasn't aware of really what was possible, I had to say yes to things. And so I did. I said yes to a lot of things to get me to the no's and to get me to more yeses. So that was, instead of just stepping out and being timid and fearful, I stepped out bold and just started putting myself out there on social media, having conversations with people, really trying to understand what was possible for someone like me
right.
that had no tech background, no business ownership background, no, anything like that. But I just had to get out there and try a lot of different things.
I can't even imagine what that was like because it's, as I'm sure you know now, searching any of that stuff, you on social media, you are bombarded with there's so many different courses, so many different ads, so many different opportunities. I imagine with it starting out back when you did, there probably wasn't much to anchor off of.
No, and being one of the first users and then one of the first certified partners for ClickFunnels, it was a lot easier to grow
Right,
back then.
right.
So now it's a little bit different. I was listening to a podcast this morning on my walk, and it was a lot about AI
Mhm.
and the transition that we already are stepping into. And we're basically stepping into where people are going to fall into two different categories. They're going to either be consumers or they're going to be the creators.
Mm.
And the difference is the creator is going to have to turn off every other distraction and stay very focused, whereas everyone else is just going to keep consuming everything. AI, even Chat GPT, you can get stuck in there forever, searching things and getting all these ideas, but the majority of people aren't going to move forward with those ideas. They're not going to create anything. They're just going to keep consuming. So
Whose podcast was that? Because that's a interesting dichotomy, I think.
yeah, so it's Lewis Howe's
Mm.
podcast, and he had one of my favorite entrepreneurs on the show, and it's Daniel Priestley.
Okay.
Yeah, he wrote the book Oversubscribed. He also wrote Key Person of Influence. He has the Score app. He just acquired Ryan Levesque's Bucket.io, I think, the quiz software. So, but he's one of my favorites, and he's so smart. So, I enjoyed listening to that. But it was a lot about AI and the changes that, like, it's happening faster. We thought, the social media like thing. If you think about that, that started back in 2007 ish. Social
Mhm.
media did, and we're still like, it wasn't as fast moving of a wave as like the AI is. AI
Right.
is making everything super fast, and I don't know, it's just really interesting. So what I've done as a business person and a creator and an educator is to really just not get distracted by AI, use it in a way that helps me grow, and that I've created actually different custom GPTs to help people stay focused while they're using chat. And so for me, there's, a bazillion different AI tools that you could start using today, but you have to know like why. And you're going to get lost in them trying to figure them out and trying to figure out what I mean? So to me, if you stay focused and use it to your advantage as a tool, I think it'll be really advantageous for people. And that's where the difference becomes from the consumer to the creator, I believe.
So my now friend was a mentor, my accountability coach in the program that got me into entrepreneurship. He said multiple occasions, this is really kind of before AI, but like you're either consuming or creating as a human, right? So we all either consume or we create, and really it's really hard to do both. And so it's interesting you say that, and that was on a podcast, because that I get, hey, that is definitely natural integration into that philosophy with AI. And I think you're right, because I mean, YouTube, Facebook Reels, there's I can't believe how many videos are created by AI now that look super
Oh, I
real,
know.
like
Yeah.
terrible tragedies and things like that are just like,
Awful.
this did not happen. But I guess we're gonna get into AI here in a second, but so the last question on your educational journey, but like where you've seen it from the other side, but you're familiar with the classroom. You obviously mentioned your son's going through education as well, but where is the biggest gap in how we prepare students and professionals for like in the real world? Like where is that gap that you think is the greatest in education?
Well, I think education's about 50 years behind
Hmm.
everything else. I'm glad I got out when I did, to be honest with you. It was not keeping up with how fast things were moving in the world. And another example of that is an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, iPhones can be, or any phone, whatever, doesn't have to be iPhone, Android, whatever. There are so many instances where my kids were not allowed to use them. There is, aside from trivia at a bar night, there's no other time that I'm not allowed to use my phone,
Mm-hmm.
right? So instead of embracing technology in schools, I feel like schools freak out and just say, no, we're not going there. Turn them off, put them in a shoebox. You can have it when you leave the room. But when the reality is, we can't even navigate down to the local, McDonald's without putting it on the map anymore on our phone. So, or simple math equations on a calculator, or whatever it is, our phones are now an extension of our brain. And then AI is going to be the same way. And so I think schools are still, and having my younger son just graduated high school this year, like this month, last month.
Congratulations.
Yeah. There, I was, helping him with schoolwork. They're still teaching the same stuff that I swear that my grandfather was learning, some of it. And definitely the same curriculum that I had to go through. I'm over 50 years old. My son just turned 18. Our worlds are not the same. And I think the curriculum and the way and the methods are just so antiquated and behind that. And my son, he went online. He did not even go to the traditional school starting as a freshman, which was after COVID. That's a whole nother thing, right? But it's just, schools were set up to help people get jobs in like factories and corporations. Well, that is no longer really the case. You don't need a 12-year, high school degree to get that kind of job. This started, I think, back when I was getting my master's degree in the early 2000s. I was studying about how different countries were splitting their students at about 8th grade to either go like the 4-year scholar route, right? Or the trade route. I thought that was a great thing, because a lot of kids from experience that I was working with, they had no interest in learning any of the extra higher education things. They were ready to go learn a skill and get a job and do that, right? But in most cases in American public schools, that's not really an option even still. It's very few and far between where kids get that choice to go off to that trade route. Um, and those are jobs that will not be taken over by AI or robots, most likely, right? And so those are things that we actually need to be pushing our youth to do. And I think, so to sum it up, I think public education is way behind on all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I wish I had an answer on how like they could just speed it up and catch up, but it's going to take a massive overhaul.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good insight. I would tend to agree on a lot of things there. And I do kind of see it as a failure of um, not only just states, obviously the federal government, because we don't have a national curriculum, right? And has been resisted, and so it's really hard to get 53 independent states and to move as one, let alone even within the states that have all kinds of different. So it is, this is something where like federalism and the disbursement of autonomy is failing because we're not able to like, I'm sure you know this as a science teacher, but like when history would cover Sputnik as a changing event, like as in the Scopes monkey trial was a shift away from science education and focus on religion and old dogma, but the Sputnik going up there was like a national wake up call, and we strategically moved back to math and science. I don't know when that movement's coming again because there's been a lot of failed reforms. And like you said, I think AI is moving so fast. It's going to lap education in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
With that, I mean, so AI is obviously here to stay. It's not just reshaping education, it's reshaping business, but how do you see it impacting you as a business owner as we approach learning and personal growth?
I think for me, like I said, whenever, like right now, as I'm learning it as like everybody else is because it's new, I'm just putting together ways that I can help others use it more efficiently and effectively for themselves. Um, and I think that even you could have as many search engines as you want. You could have you have access to all the information you want, but you're still going to need help with implementation, with accountability, with actual human discussion, right? I have so many conversations with my own chat GPT, but it still does not compare to the human interaction I have with my friends or with my own mentors or coaches. It can give me some great insights and thoughts, but I still need to flush those out with actual humans, right? And so I think AI, for me as an impact as a business owner, I love it because I get to create things as an early adopter that other people will want to buy from me, or you take my mentorship or my courses because I integrate AI in a way that's useful to them.
This episode is brought to you by Supported Tutoring, where we don't just help students get better grades, we help them become critical thinkers. Whether it's mastering AP exams, maximizing college applications, or building lifelong learning habits, our expert tutors focus on critical thinking, confidence, and real growth. Head to supportedtutoring.com to find the support your student deserves. Right. So you're working with it right now, and your aligned AI guide combines AI tools. So can you want to talk a little bit about that and what it does?
So the aligned AI guide is just so what I started doing was talking to my chat GPT as it needed to know me. It needed to know more about me, and not just me as a human, but me. And so I started feeding it reports like disc assessments and my human design report and my gene keys and my strength finders, everything that I've ever taken, all those little assessments, I fed it into GPT and it could analyze all of that and disseminate down to what kind of person I am and what aligns with my personality and what kind of work I should be doing and what kind of offers I should create and deliver. And so now, as I have actual like questions or conversations with chat, it it knows me enough to give me not just static collective information, but really refined answers that pertain to me as an individual. And so I wanted to create a way for others to be able to have that experience with their chat without me having to explain exactly how I just explained it. So I taught a custom GPT how to walk other people through that. And
Okay.
that's just one of the GPTs that I created.
Have you come to the end of a ChatGPT chat yet? Have you run out of
Oh,
prompts?
yes. I have to start new ones
To
because
start
I
new
talk
ones?
too much.
I
I
got
was
it.
kind of disappointed because I was like, oh man, what are we going to like? I have all this history with this
Yeah, right.
thread.
Are you putting those in projects or like
No,
folders or
I don't have
something?
them in projects. Just have them in chats right now.
Okay.
I could start projects, but it's not that big of a deal to me. I also created another custom GPT recently to help people create offers. So, an offer in entrepreneur world is basically just something you want to sell.
Right.
And so, whether it's an online course or you want to put together an event or a retreat, or I had a person, he's in corporate and he wanted to put together a training for people at his work.
Right.
So he went through, it's called the cash method offer generator. And what it does is it helps you have clarity around your offer. So is it clear? Is it aligned? Meaning, is it going to excite you and or drain you when you're delivering it? Right? Because people will feel that you're not aligned with this whole thing, and they're not going to purchase it or want to go through it.
Right.
How is it structured? That's the S in cash. And then is it in hot demand? So if you're looking to sell something, right, you want to make sure you're creating something that people would actually buy. So I created a custom GPT that walks people through every single step of that offer creation system and allows them to have a pretty robust outline of what it is that they should be creating. And then once they have that, that's where I can come in and start helping them really discern what should stay and what should not, how we can incorporate different learning styles into the way that the offer is going to be structured. Because a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just create a video and that'll be enough. Well, I personally don't learn through video. I love to read things, and I like to write things down. And so I like to help people make sure that they're touching as many of the learning styles as they can within their one offer, one course. So that way, I mean, some people are auditory, right? So they want to just listen. So we make sure that we hit all of those points. That's something that AI really can't do right now, is tell you exactly how, I guess it could if you wanted to spend the time to ask it the right questions and say, how can I deliver this in a way that, works? But it's so much easier to work with an expert that has been there, done that, and can help you get from point A to point B much faster than just trying to type it out with chat.
That's very interesting. The concept of like, I mean, I know you come across this probably as a business owner, growing an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, growing it, helping other business owners as well. But we come across bottlenecks, right? There's something like we all experience plateaus, stagnant, or we're not really growing. It's kind of for one reason or another. I think some ways we get through that is through system thinking. And so how do you see systems thinking helping educators and even school leaders get through some bottlenecks in the school, so that we can catch up? Because it does sometimes feel like that carousel if we're not moving, we're not
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah. I think it's really important to bring in people from the outside to look in. It's really, you've all heard it, like you can't see the forest through the trees, or you can't read the instructions from the inside of the bottle. And I believe that's really true. Whether you're in education or any other business model, it's really helpful to have someone that knows about your industry come in and observe
Right.
and see things from a different perspective, and probably catch things on day one that you had never thought of. I do it all the time for my clients, where if they have, an offer, a course, a program, and it's just stagnant, it's not moving anymore. It did one time, but now it's just like, what happened? I don't know what's going on. As and it's just the same in business as education. As the world changes, as the way people consume changes, as attention spans change, you have to also evolve your model. And some people are so close to what they've created, they have a really hard time evolving. They have a really hard time changing. Like, well, it worked before. Like, we're just going to force it to work now. And unfortunately, that doesn't work. So having someone or a team of people, right, come in and observe really what's going on and give those suggestions, I think would be a really great first step for an organization that feels stuck or feels like there's a bottleneck. Someone that's not so close to the people, close to the organization, so they can give, really uh, unbiased feedback.
This is the way we've always done it. So why do we need to change, kind of
Yeah.
thing? The interesting thing about, so like in our doctoral program, one of the first quotes that kind of stuck out to me that I actually have still in my office is, every system is designed to get the results it gets perfectly. So every system is perfectly designed to get those results. So I think in a lot of ways we fail to look at systems, especially in schools. So, maybe we have more failures than not in education because we don't look at systems. But I guess now, being an entrepreneur and working with other business owners, how do we teach systems thinking to your clients, and to us, and to students, in a way that's both practical and empowering to look at that system as a whole, and actually identify how do you get unstuck?
I think a lot of it has to do with bureaucracy
Mm.
and the steps that have always just been. There's talk about bottlenecks. Like, think about if you want to go on a field trip with your kids, all the steps required to get approval to do this thing that's going to be amazing for everyone involved. And it doesn't even have to be going off site. It could be, I mean, just think about the steps that it takes to do anything. You have forms to fill out, and they have 4 carbon copy colors, and the pink one goes here and the yellow one goes here, and whatever, right? So I think the bureaucracy in place puts it to where the actual people that are responsible for creating the lessons and disseminating the information to the young people, they are not trusted to do so. They aren't trusted to do something off the scale or different, right? And if they do want to do something different, they've got to get approval to do it. So I think there needs to be a little more trust. And if that means having to raise salaries, which is a big deal, and hire higher caliber people to do those jobs in order so you can trust them, I think those are some big things. So, but systems, I think, are bottlenecked by just the way they've been created and put into place in a bureaucratic nature.
Do you think there's like a sacred cow in, well, I'll give you a chance to answer both, but do you think there's a sacred cow in traditional education and entrepreneurship that needs to be challenged?
What do you mean by sacred cow?
Something that we kind of accept as a reality and aren't going to push on like something that's maybe perceived as untouchable? I think it's probably, I mean, you've mentioned a couple things in education. I don't know if you want to get specific, but I mean, your perspective as an entrepreneur for so long, I assume there's some things that we potentially don't shake up.
Yeah, I don't know. Entrepreneurship is all about shaking things up and doing things a different way, right? That's
Mm,
kind of, I don't know if that would be like a definition of it, but yeah, you don't keep doing the same thing over and over. You have to, and it changes so fast that you have to be able to be flexible and go with it. And I think that's one place where schools haven't caught up is they're pretty rigid and they haven't changed the way that they do things very often. And if they do change, it's a long process because there's boards and then there's school board, like state boards. And then there was, the federal stuff.
right.
And I don't know where that all stands right now, but
I don't think anyone does right
so
now.
I don't know if there's in entrepreneurship. I just think people just jump in and they see a problem and they give a solution. That's the nature of entrepreneurship. And then in the schools, I just feel like it's still pretty antiquated as like, well, you got to go through 12 years and then you can decide what you're going to do forever.
Mm,
It's just different. It's not about problem solving or evolving. It's just about, well, tick that box off. First grade done. Second grade checked off. You know what I mean? It's just check,
right.
check, check. 12 years of it. And then good luck, whatever's next.
Are you okay? So, are you only work with experienced business owners, or do you work with new business owners, like new
I work
entrepreneurs?
primarily with experienced
Okay,
businesses. I have worked with new ones before, and it was, I'll call it my tugboat era because I was just this tugboat of just having to drag people across the finish line if we ever got that far. Now I'm in my lighthouse era of here's the beacon and I'll show you the way, but you've got to steer your ship.
got it. The probably there's a lot of more belief breaking when you're starting with new business owners.
There's a lot of belief breaking and there's a huge learning curve, right?
Right.
There's a whole nother vocabulary and a whole nother way of life that you have to get into. And some people are all in it and ready, and a lot of others get in and their fear takes over and they don't move forward.
You've talked a lot about breaking the time for money cycle,
Hmm.
and so much of us are trading that time for money. And I think we just are so programmed to that's just how we should do. And
Yeah.
I'm not even in a job as how passionate as people can get with teaching, you're still trading time for money. But like, what would that look like in education, or student success to break the time for money cycle?
As an educator, I really don't know how you would get out of that other than in a way that even so, Epic is the public school that's online here in Oklahoma. It's the largest high school in the state. It's got the largest enrollment. I think almost 20,000 students are enrolled in the high school. They have done it in a way that I guess as an educator, you can, they still have it structured very similar to a public school though, because each teacher is assigned a certain number of students. When we break the time for money trap outside of education, like in your own world, you can do that in different ways through leveraged offers that you create once and you can just sell over and over to
Mm-hmm.
a million people if you wanted, and it wouldn't like take more of your time. You already did it. And then one to many type offers, right? So like you can do things in a group setting. So it's still kind of trading time for money because you have to be somewhere at a certain time in a certain place, but you can help multiple more people at one time rather than just one on one. So, but in education, you don't want to get in this point of where a student is just a number. or they're just buying, like they're just getting a course and going through it without a human instructor. My son, going through, getting ready to go to a senior year of college, a lot of his classes are online and his interaction with a human is limited.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe that's the way to go. Honestly, he's not learning anything really. I mean, it's just another one of those check boxes, but these check boxes cost a lot more money than the
Mm-hmm.
others. Uh, so when it comes to training time for money, as an educator, I don't really see a way out of it unless you created a side thing that you could sell. Like, have you seen oh, what is it? Teachers for Teachers or something,
Mm-hmm.
like it's an online store basically of assets and worksheets and lessons. That's a way that teachers have figured out how to break that time for money thing, or
Mm-hmm.
make themselves a way to earn more money without having to work nights or weekends or whatever. But when it comes to like the main duty of their job, I think that you are, to be effective as that teacher, as that leader, you have to be there with your people one on one, or one to 35 or 1 to 25, however that is.
So there's still a need for human interaction, but probably not applying traditional think to the way we learn online.
Yeah. I think learning online, we learned this through COVID. The kids were forced to go online without having any online experience, and the teachers didn't have any online experience either. I don't think it was that successful
Hmm.
personally, as a mom, being home with kids during COVID, even as an online entrepreneur. It just didn't work. It just wasn't the same, you know? But at the same time, if we look at the other side of the coin, it also doesn't take 6 or 7 hours a day to go through the amount of curriculum that they need to get through in a day. So I think a big part of the in-person school experience is the socialization and the human interaction, rather
Right.
than just learning all the time, like actual curriculum learning.
Right. What does success look like to you when working with a learner, whether it's a student, educator, or entrepreneur, even a business owner of a long time? Is what does success look like?
For the people I work with, success is different based on what their goals are. So I don't define what success looks like for them, they do. And then
Okay.
I like to help them achieve it. So it's, and I've learned that over time. So I'll give you the list of deliverables and what I would like to see happen if you go through something that I'm taking you through. But some people, I've worked with so many people that get started, say, creating an online program or online course. And online, you're sold like, oh, it's so easy. You just do this, this, and this, and you start making $1 million. Just put it on the internet and then
Right.
people will buy it. But once people start getting in there and seeing the truth of it and how much work it really does take, they quit. And that's not a bad thing. That was success for them. They got in, they learned it wasn't for them, and now they're going to go try something new,
Right.
something different. And so to me, that isn't a failure. That's just them learning, and that's a success. Some people, success is, I want to launch my thing in 90 days. Okay, let's do it. So I think success is dependent upon the person, honestly. It's not on what I think that what they need.
Got it. I like that a lot. I think that brings, like, personalization is probably where we're failing in education the most, because you're you're one teacher, you have a classroom full of kids, and you have to teach a certain way. Now there's accommodations, there's differentiation, there's scaffolding, all those things. But let's be honest, you could have 30 different types of learners at their own different pace, and really, how do you reach all those kids and give them what they need while not, you know, leaving other kids behind, or getting ahead of things? So, and that, you're absolutely right. Success is kind of defined in our mind, I guess. Do you feel like we still have antiquated definitions of success? I mean, your son's probably experienced it closer to anyone. Like, I mean, have you had those conversations of what success looks like and how do you define it?
Yeah. So, especially with my 18-year-old, getting him through school and just getting that diploma was success, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, can you conjugate verbs? No, we did not. That was not success to us, right? It wasn't like the actual little things inside the curriculum that he was learning. It was like, can you get to the end point? And
Right.
that's success. None of the classes cared about his goals as a person because they have an objective and you have to hit that objective. If you don't hit the objective, you fail and you have to go back and do it again, right? Although, does he need to understand how to analyze? What books have they read? Like, I don't even remember Pride and Prejudice.
Hmm.
Does he need to know how to analyze that book if he wants to be a music producer? I don't think so, personally. But did he have to do that to get to the end goal of getting that diploma? Yes. So I think it's impossible to set objectives for every student and their specific goals. I understand why schools are set up the way they are. But back to your point of the teacher with a bunch of kids in the class and trying to teach all of them the same thing, they're all in different places. They all have different goals, they all have different interests, they all have different home lives. Like, there's so many factors to take into consideration. Success to one kid could be the fact that he just showed up that day. You know, success to another kid could mean that he brought his 68 to a 67, or no, other way around. Sorry, a 68 to a 77. You know what I mean? So,
Right,
like,
right, right.
it's all so individual what a success would be when it comes to achievement, just like it is with me and my clients that I work
Right.
with.
Right. I guess I kind of wrap with this, having a kid that just graduated as yourself. What is one lesson you wish your son or every student learned by the age of 18?
Geez, that's hard. There's more than one. I'm really lucky because my kids are resilient creatures. They really are. And a lot of teenagers today are not by choice, but they were forced into it with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was just really important for my son to know, like, yes, you're going to get this done. It's not a question like, do I have to do this or do I not have to do this? No, you have to do this. But it's just a stepping stone to what's next. So,
Do you think
I
that's
don't
it?
know if there's like,
Resiliency?
I do, because there was a lot of times that he did not want to keep going.
Right.
He did not see a point in any of it. It was worthless to him. And which is crazy. His dad is a doctor of education as an assistant superintendent of a public school system. I have a master's degree in like, we're an education-based family, and we've got
Right.
students in our household, our children, that don't see the point in any of it. So, yes, I do believe it was a lot of resiliency and tenacity on my part as a parent and on his part as a kid to make it through. And now it's overwhelming today because it's not like, well, you either go this way and go to college or you do this and you get a job and whatever. Now there's so many choices. You open a TikTok shop or you just start becoming, you're a creator on YouTube now, or you do this or you do that. Like, there's so many things that they have these opportunities now. I don't know. So now he's just kind of sitting back and thinking about what he wants to do. And the cool part is, it's not like whenever I was going through, or our parents were going through, where it's like you pick the thing and you're on that path for 30 years or 35 and then you're done. Like, you don't change. Now you can do something for a couple years, decide that's not for you, and move on. And I think that's also where the resiliency and the ability to evolve comes in handy. And I think that the kids that had to go through COVID are going to be able to do that better than probably anyone else.
Well, it sounds like your kids are going to be really good entrepreneurs if they're
Funny,
already
my older son, he is just like I was. He's just like college, job, path.
right.
The younger one, he's his own guy.
Do you think that's because of COVID?
No, he's always like he's
He's
always
just
been
always
that
been like
way.
that.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
No.
So, okay. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, your journey. It is a wild ride. I'm still haven't made the clean break yet from the W-2.
Yeah.
And we have had a lot of conversations about when is that right time. But I
I think
appreciate.
you'll know. I think you'll know when it is.
Yeah, it's getting closer and closer every day. Some days more than others, but I definitely appreciate your courage and just making that leap of faith and not having like the next thing lined up. And I think there's a lot of good teachers like yourself leaving the field and just kind of frustrated with kind of how things are. But they definitely have some inspiration in you of where to go to if how to be successful on the next thing. Because like I think it's crazy, like teacher, well, what would I do? I don't know. You're a teacher. You could learn something, right? Like,
Yeah.
like literally
Yeah.
anything.
You can
You
teach
literally
yourself anything.
yeah, exactly. I think it's so, it is, there's some cognitive dissonance there of like, what would I do besides teaching? And literally anything.
I mean, I still teach though. That's the funny thing. I just do it in a different environment. And,
right.
but I also want to preface, like, I didn't just quit one day and be like, okay, figured it out. I gave myself a pretty long runway
Right.
to, determine what was next for me. Also, at the time that I quit, I had to make $500 a week. I was making so little money as a teacher with a master's degree and coaching tennis. That was a big part of the decision also. So for me, if I put it into that formula of like, okay, what can I do and just replace that income? That was my only goal at that time, to just replace it. It wasn't like I'm going to go out and create my own business and do all this stuff. I was just like step by step.
Income.
Yes. And then all those steps led to more steps. Right. So it just wasn't all at once. Like, oh, I quit. And then I just had this thing. So it takes time, but it's totally worth it if you're ready to do it.
Well, still a lot because it is an interesting journey. I'll tell you that. And I do love it. And it's, something I wish more people would experience, but I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much. It was great meeting you.
Thank you.
And do you want to plug anything where people can find you if they're interested in learning more about what you do?
I'm all over social media, so I welcome anybody to connect with me there. I'm Amanda Dake everywhere, LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube. You can just follow me there and keep up with what's going on, any of the cool chat GPT things I've created or whatever. So,
well, appreciate it again. I stay tuned because we do have we're building an AI tutor in the background. Of John mentioned that, but it's going to be pretty awesome. So
cool.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us on the Supported Learning Podcast. If today's conversation inspired you, challenged you, or sparked a new perspective, be sure to subscribe and share with a fellow changemaker. We'll be back soon with more voices, more insight, and more ways to elevate the future of learning together. Until then, keep learning and keep pushing the conversation forward.